Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to try a little experiment. I want you to close your eyes for a second.
Unless you're driving, of course.
Right, yes. Please keep them open if you are driving. Imagine it's January 2026. We're looking at the world, specifically the South African job market, from right now. And, the dust has kind of settled from all the frantic digital transformation talk of the early 20s.
It really has. It's funny. If you just rewind a couple of years to say 2023 or 2024, there was this real anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone was worried that AI was coming for their job or that the economy was going to pivot so hard they'd be left behind. And now, in 2026, we see the goalpost did move, but maybe not in that apocalyptic way people feared.
That's the thing. We spent all this time worrying about robots taking over, but the reality is more mundane and actually, I think, a lot more hopeful. The old, reliable jobs are fading, sure, but they're being replaced by these very specific high-growth pockets. So our mission today is to cut through all the buzzwords. We're not guessing. We are looking at a deep analysis from Regent Business School. It's called Fast-Growing Careers in South Africa 2026.
And this report is just so crucial because it isn't some futurist's fantasy. It's a real curriculum and market analysis.
Yeah.
It tells us what employers are actually posting on job boards today.
Right now.
And more importantly, what they're struggling to fill. It connects these huge economic shifts, global trade, our reliance on data, sustainability, to the person sitting in an office in Sandton or a logistics hub down in Durban.
What really jumped out at me is that some of these job titles sound like they belong in a sci-fi novel, but they're accessible right now. But before we get into the specifics, I want to set the scene. South Africa in 2026, we are not an isolated market anymore.
Not at all. We are plugged into a very fast, very automated global grid. That's the context we have to start with. The global economy is interacting with South Africa differently now. We're seeing a big move towards operations that are, smarter and faster.
Smarter and faster.
The days of just throwing bodies at a problem are over. Companies, whether they're in retail or mining, are using leaner teams with much better tools.
Okay, so let's dive into what the report calls the Big Five. These are the 5 sectors it identifies as the absolute pillars of employment for this year. And the first one is the giant in the room: digital business and technology.
Of course.
But wait, before you tune out thinking, I don't know how to code, just stick with me. This is not just for software engineers.
That's such a common misconception. When we say digital business, people immediately think of like a guy in a hoodie writing Python in a dark room.
Totally.
But the report highlights this massive demand for what I like to call the translators.
The translators, what do you mean?
These are the people who stand between the hardcore tech and the rest of the business. The report lists titles like Business Systems Analyst and IT Support and Systems Coordinator.
Okay.
Think about a typical company in Cape Town. They've bought all this expensive software to manage their customers. But, the sales team hates it, the marketing team doesn't know how to pull reports from it, and the CEO is just frustrated.
So the systems coordinator isn't the person building the software. They're the one teaching the sales team how to actually use it so the company makes money.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about implementation. And the Regent source points out something fascinating here. There is currently low to medium competition for these roles.
That statistic blew my mind. Low competition in tech.
It feels impossible, right?
Yeah.
But it's a massive inefficiency in the market. Everyone is trying to become a developer, but far fewer people are training to be the manager of the technology.
It makes sense if everyone is looking at the hard skills and ignoring the application. The report also lists e-commerce manager. Now, 5 years ago, that might have been a side job for the marketing intern.
Right, but in 2026, the e-commerce manager is basically running a digital flagship store. They need to understand inventory, user experience, customer service bots, payment gateways. It's a general management role just wrapped in a digital skin.
And software developer is still on the list, of course.
It is, but even that role has shifted. With AI assistants writing a lot of the boilerplate code now, a developer in 2026 is doing more architecture and quality control. They're solving business problems, not just hunting for syntax errors.
So if digital business is the engine, the second pillar has to be the fuel, and that's business analytics and data. This is really distinct from just IT. This is about making decisions.
This is where we see the biggest shift in daily operations. In the past, companies used data to look backward. How much did we sell last month?
Yep.
The jobs listed here: business analyst, data coordinator, and specifically this one, reporting and insights officer. They are all about looking forward.
Reporting and Insights Officer. I love that title. It sounds like something from the CIA, but what is this person actually doing on, say, a Tuesday morning?
Okay, imagine a large retail chain. The reporting officer isn't just sending a spreadsheet to the board. They're looking at the data and saying, hey, foot traffic in our Pretoria stores drops every time it rains, but online orders surge by 40%.
Great.
So we need to trigger an automatic email campaign to Pretoria customers whenever the weather forecast predicts rain.
That's a brilliant example. So they are literally finding the money hidden in the numbers.
They're storytellers. The source emphasizes that this role suits people who just enjoy problem solving. You don't have to be a pure mathematician, but you do have to be data literate. You need to know how to ask the data the right questions.
And this is where the education piece comes in. A few years ago, I feel like people just stumbled into these roles because they were good with Excel. But the report points out that formal education has really caught up.
It has. Regent lists specific qualifications for this niche, like a postgraduate diploma in business intelligence or an advanced diploma in financial management. It just shows that data is now a recognized business function, like accounting or HR.
You can't just wing it anymore.
Not if you want to get to the top. You need to understand the frameworks.
Okay, so we've got the digital brain and the data insights. But we live in the physical world. We need to eat, we need clothes, we build houses. This brings us to the third sector, and honestly, I think this is the unsung hero of the South African economy.
Which is?
Supply chain and sustainability.
This is where South Africa's geography becomes your career advantage. We are a trade hub. We're the gateway to the continent. The source ranks supply chain and logistics management as a top-tier field.
And people overlook it. They just picture dusty warehouses and forklifts.
Totally. It doesn't have the glamour of AI specialist. But if you look at the job titles, procurement officer, supply chain manager, logistics coordinator, these are incredibly high-stakes roles.
How so?
Well, think back to the chaos of the early 2020s when supply chains just broke. You couldn't get microchips, you couldn't get car parts. Companies learned a very hard lesson. Logistics is strategic.
It's risk management.
Exactly. A procurement officer in 2026 isn't just buying paper clips. They are negotiating international contracts, navigating tariffs, and making sure the factory doesn't shut down because a ship got stuck in a canal somewhere.
It's incredibly complex. You're dealing with currencies, time zones, regulations.
Which is a perfect segue into the other side of this coin, the green economy. The report identifies this as a huge growth sector.
Okay.
And again, to be clear, we are not just talking about installing solar panels.
Although that's part of it.
It is, but this has moved beyond the activist phase into the compliance and profit phase. The source calls it the green economy and highlights the double bottom line.
Meaning companies need to protect the environment to protect their
profits.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because of regulations, carbon taxes, and frankly, consumer demand. If you are a manufacturer in 2026, you cannot afford to be wasteful. So you hire a green business manager or a sustainability officer.
What does a green business manager actually do? Are they just the recycling police?
Far from it. They're looking at the energy consumption of the entire plant and figuring out how to cut it by 20% to save millions of rands. They're looking at product packaging and finding a biodegradable alternative that costs the same.
So they are essential to the financial health of the company.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that Regent groups these career paths together. They mentioned that PGD in supply chain management and the Bachelor of Commerce in supply chain management. It shows the path to these physical world jobs is quite structured.
And secure?
Very secure. If you have a BCom in supply chain, you have a skill set that works in almost any industry that moves physical goods. It's a very transferable qualification.
Speaking of transferable, that brings us to our fourth sector. And this one has a bit of a twist. We're talking about healthcare. Now, usually when I see healthcare on a jobs list, I just assume it means we need more nurses and doctors, and we do. But that's not what this report is highlighting.
This is a really critical distinction. The report is focusing on the management and operations side. The text says healthcare is growing beyond hospitals.
What does that mean? Like telehealth?
The telehealth, localized clinics, specialized care centers, wellness organizations, yeah. The healthcare system has become this massive, sprawling business. You can't just have a top surgeon trying to run the HR department or figure out vaccine logistics.
I like the analogy of a hospital being like a small city. The doctors are the specialized workers, but you need a mayor, you need a city manager.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
The titles listed are Healthcare Administrator, Health Services Manager, and Operations Coordinator. These are the people making sure the system actually works so the doctors can do their jobs.
And I imagine the burnout rate for medical professionals has something to do with this.
A huge amount. One of the best ways to support doctors and nurses is to have competent management handling that administrative burden.
So if you want to work in healthcare, if you want to help people, but you faint at the sight of blood, this is the path for you.
It absolutely is. Regent offers an MBA in healthcare management or a higher certificate in healthcare services management. It acknowledges that running a healthcare facility requires a specific blend of business skill and industry knowledge. You can't just be a generic manager.
You need to understand the specifics.
Right. Patient privacy laws, medical insurance, public health mandates. It's specialized.
That just opens up a huge door for people. Okay, so we've covered the big sectors: digital, data, supply chain, and green economy, and healthcare management. But I want to pause and play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
We've listed a lot of degrees: MBAs, PGDs, BComs, but it's 2026. I go on social media and I see tech billionaires saying universities are obsolete. They say, just show me your skills. So let's be real with the listener. Do you actually need a university degree for these jobs?
That is the great debate of our time. And the source gives a very nuanced answer, which is not always to start, but usually yes for the ceiling.
Unpack that for me.
So the source explicitly says that many of these careers allow you to start with a certificate or a diploma. They mention higher certificates in retail management or entrepreneurship. These are fantastic entry points.
A foot in the door.
Exactly. You can get a job as a junior logistics coordinator or a retail supervisor without a 4-year degree. So the barrier to entry isn't a brick wall.
Okay, but?
But, and here's the reality check. If you want to move from doing the job to running the department, that formal qualification becomes critical. In highly digital industries, that diploma or degree gives you the theoretical framework that lets you solve problems you've never seen before.
It's the difference between knowing how to fix the engine and understanding why the engine was built that way in the first place.
Precisely. The degree raises your ceiling. It prepares you for leadership. But, regardless of whether you have a PhD or a higher certificate, the report breaks down a skills stack that every single employer wants in 2026.
Okay, let's run through this stack. I think this is the checklist our listeners need. There are 3 categories. First up, digital and technical.
And this goes beyond just knowing how to use a computer. The source lists data literacy, understanding platforms, and this is crucial, learning how to use artificial intelligence to improve efficiency.
I noticed that phrasing. It doesn't say coding AI. It says using AI to improve efficiency. That feels like a big shift from creation to collaboration.
It is. It means treating AI as a coworker. Can you use these tools to do your work 50% faster? If yes, you're hired. If no, you're a bottleneck.
Brutal, but true. Okay, second category, business and problem solving.
This is your critical thinking. It's the so what factor. You have the data, you have the report, now can you make a decision? Employers are just desperate for people who can take ownership of a problem.
And the third category, the one that machines, still can't really do. Human and soft skills.
Adaptability, teamwork, communication. The source sums it up beautifully. It says employers want professionals who can learn, adjust, and work well with others.
Learn and adjust. That feels like the survival motto for the modern economy.
It really is. Because the tools we use today, the specific software, the specific laws, they might be totally different in 2028. But the ability to work with a team, to de-escalate a conflict, to communicate a strategy, that never becomes obsolete.
So to recap our map of the 2026 job market, we have digital business with its surprisingly low competition. We've got data analytics for the storytellers. We have supply chain keeping the world moving, and the green economy making it sustainable.
And healthcare management running the systems that keep us alive. It's a robust list.
Yay.
And what stands out to me is that these aren't niche little side hustles or fleeting trends.
Right.
These are foundational pillars of the economy. They solve real, tangible problems that are not going away.
And they offer flexibility. If you're a project manager with data skills, you could work in green energy today and switch to healthcare tomorrow.
That's the key. And that brings me to what I think is the most important takeaway from this whole report.
Exactly.
The concept of being future-proof. We've listed job titles, and those are great targets. But since AI and machine learning are becoming common in all industries, the most valuable career skill might not be what you know right now. It's your ability to pivot,
The pivot, I like that.
So are you preparing for a specific job title that might change in 5 years? Or are you preparing to be adaptable? Are you building a toolkit of transferable skills, data literacy, management, critical thinking that lets you jump between these sectors? Because the person who can speak the language of data and understand supply chain
Is the most dangerous person in the room.
in the best possible way. They are indispensable.
That is a powerful thought to leave on. Don't just learn the job, learn the language of the economy. Whether you're looking at a higher certificate to get started or an MBA to reach the C-suite, the goal is the same. Stay curious, stay adaptable, and don't fear the tools. Master them.
Couldn't said it better myself.
A huge thank you for the insights from Regent Business School's report for laying out this roadmap for us. We hope this deep dive helps you navigate your own career path in 2026. Thanks for listening.
Keep learning.